Hi everyone, it's Sharon, recreation programmer for the city of Burlington, and today we are going to make some very simple homemade bird feeders. This is a bit of an indoor and an outdoor activity, so the first thing that you need to do is go outside for a walk and see if you can find some pine cones. Now you can use the little short variety, but these long ones are really great for this activity. When you find them, if they've been on the ground, they may be soaked and their little leaves, if you will, won't be open like this. They'll be all closed up. So you're going to bring them home. You can give them a quick wash just to get some of the dirt and dust off of them. And then you can set them aside and let them dry. Now, you can let them dry for a week or so. You can also do it in the oven at a really low temperature, so around 200 degrees, and I would set it on a piece of parchment paper or tin foil in your oven, and you're just going to watch them. So make sure that you put on a timer and double check them to make sure that they don't burn. This particular one I let air dry, and if you can see, it didn't end up opening all the way, which is okay, but I did want them to open up nicely. So these ones are ones that I did put in the oven. I didn't completely dry them in the oven. I brought them back out and they were still damp, but then let them air dry. And this is how they've turned out, and they've opened up quite nicely. So there is a little bit of a wait for this activity unless you find some dry ones which have already opened. Next, you're going to need some twine, string. You could use embroidery floss, anything like that, some old yarn, just so that you can tie it up. You're going to need some birdseed. I do recommend black oil. Sunflower seeds have oil in them, which is really, really great for birds, and it also attracts cardinals and tends to attract blue jays as well. So certain feeds will attract certain animals. You're going to need some sort of nut butter, and it doesn't really matter what kind. I just happen to have this almost end of a jar that I'm going to use up. I will suggest that you're going to want a bowl and put some of that nut butter into this bowl, because you don't want to scrape this onto your pine cone and then end up putting it back into your jar, because then you may have some pine cone bits in it. So the first thing that you're going to do is cut yourself a piece of string, and you're going to tie it around the top of your pine cone. Try and snuggle it in between these little, I'm calling them leaves, in between all of the little bits on the cone, so that it's in there quite nicely, and then just have it so that it would be able to tie. So you want a nice piece of string on the end so that you can tie it to a tree. I have a cookie sheet, have a little bit of parchment paper on here, wax paper, plastic, doesn't really matter. You can do it on a plate. It's just to kind of keep your surface clean. And you're going to take your nut butter and you're just going to smear it all over this pine cone and try and get it into all the nooks and crannies. And you're going to do the whole cone. I'm not going to do it today because I don't think you need to see me do that. But try and smear it all over the cone, all the way up and around. And that's why you have this parchment down, so it's not going to make a giant mess. And you can do this a couple of ways. So you could pour out your birdseed onto your cookie sheet or plate or whatever you happen to be using, or you could pour directly onto your pine cone. Onto the sheet is nice because then you're going to squish this pine cone into all of this bird seed. You're going to try and get it in there. Be somewhat gentle with your cone, only because these little cone bits will sometimes break off if you're a little too aggressive. But you're going to squeeze it all in there. So once that's all covered, this whole pine cone will be covered with your nut butter and your bird seed. And then you're going to go outside and go for a nice little walk again, or if you happen to have a tree out in your yard somewhere that you can see, that's excellent. And you're going to hang this from the tree. I do recommend that you can hang it so it's close to another branch, so that if birds want to land to feed, they can. So they can land on the branch beside it or underneath it, and then they can pick what they need off of this. So you're just going to let it happen, and the birds will love it. And you can either leave them up there and the string eventually will rot and fall off and you'll end up with a pine cone on the ground. You can bring it back in, or you can just keep replacing it each time with a different pine cone. But it's super nice. You can see some different birds. You can grab a bird watching book, or even look online and see what kind of birds that you happen to be attracting. And you're going to attract different ones at different times of the year. Super simple, using a bit of stuff that you have at home and an opportunity to get outside and play. Don't forget to come back and see us again. Bye.